Good morning, this is Pixie doing another video. Just let's get out of this junction and I'll chat a bit. Right. Yeah, I was having a chat with somebody I know who's a neighbour of mine, sort of discussing ideas. Now he does a lot of kind of relax meditation type stuff, and it's kind of some healing stuff he does as well, so it's a kind of combination of things. I mean, obviously I'll let him explain at a later date, which just brings me quickly to what's potentially happening. I said, well, why don't you use YouTube, why don't you do videos and stuff? And he said, well, oh, yeah, I'd like to do that, and you know, create a sort of nice persona for it and project myself out there. So at some point I might try to get him to set up a channel. I may record him and put him on my own channel, and then also I said about live streaming, but first you've got to get some members. But I don't think that'd be too hard if you're kind of offering a service out there, and then you say, well, people will donate. You know, you get a lot out of potentially out of donations, and it's not about money. It's kind of creating. Basically, you don't want to be chained to the 9 to 5 ball and chain. Basically, you know, everyone would probably prefer to work part time, and hopefully at some point in the future we all could, if we choose to, you could work more hours or less or whatever. You know, some people have got a passion for certain types of work, other people wouldn't. So you wouldn't want to be like working 60 hours a week as a cleaner, but you might as you know, some type of scientist or sort of something into computers or something like that. You may put more time in. So I think in the future there'd be this universal credit, and the work you do deducts doesn't. See, the more you work, the more you earn, won't actually be really applicable. You'll get it in different ways, like you'll be a shareholder in a company or something. But what you earn, you'll just get a universal credit amount. I mean, which pretty much happens anyway. I mean, we don't walk around with all our value, all our wealth on us. You know, when you get paid, you don't get given a big wad of cash. It goes in your bank, and then you just siphon it off throughout the month, and actually a lot of the money you won't actually see because it will come out directly through direct debits and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's a future system. Hopefully it gets in place. You know, I don't mind military developing high-tech weaponry, etc. What I don't want is elite people telling us that there's wars, causing false flags, murdering people, and then they're just getting the budget, and then they're doing a sort of big chunk of that budget is going elsewhere. And they just say, oh, well, we don't have to tell them anything because, well, they're cockroaches to us, you know, because we are somehow above them. When they might actually be missing some mental faculties there, because at the end of the day, you're kind of shooting yourself in your own foot. But it's a desperate battle to sort of create indifference and profit from it. But profit really, it's illusionary notes, and money is just a different type of magic, really. People will die for money, sort of thing, and people do. Anyway, going back to my friend. So I've gone into a different area. Topic, yeah. So he's got so it's quite interesting. I'll give a bit of a bio on him. Basically, he spent a chunk of his life as a driver at one point, and he grew up in a sort of tough part of Ireland, like a lot of places. He did some boxing and stuff like that. So he was a driver, but then later life there was kind of like a spiritual calling, and I think this happens to a lot of people. He lived out his kind of, you know, kind of high-risk material existence. He went through the phase, and then he's moved into a spiritual sort of path, drawn into things like interest in Aikido, and I think it's when he connected with somebody who's spiritual the master there, or teacher, or I should say sensei, and he kind of connected to other disciplines. So he's how can you use qigong in martial arts and all these sorts of things. How does it work? And it's all breathing and movement, really, isn't it? Well, everything becomes one at some point. So you sort of soften the edges around stereotypes and words. You know, a bit like I could say I'm a white person, but I don't really refer myself as that. I could say I'm a reptilian or something. Yeah, it wouldn't really matter because, I mean, to be honest, you don't know the full extent of my genetics or your genetics and so on, even where we come from. So there's a lot potentially there in each of us, but we could soften it and say we're part of this human race. Now the human race may be spanned on more than one planet or dimension or whatever the other globes in this thing are, the conscious constructs. I'll come back to that in a bit, I think. But yeah, go back to my mate, because I keep wanting to talk about other things. I think this back of the mind's very active, and there's a lot of stuff sort of almost getting beamed into my skull. So he went on from his Aikido, which he still trains in. He's very active with his master. Then he went and explored some more spiritual stuff. I think his Irish upbringing gave him a certain edge as well, because you know, there's a lot of folklore. It's a very spiritual country as well. I mean, he probably doesn't strongly believe in all the folklore, but it does kind of make the fabric of his being, his upbringing. And so he's developed into mediumship, and he's done things like Indian head massage. I mean, first he had it done up to him, and he thought it was really brilliant. And then afterwards, he actually became a practitioner of it. He does Reiki as well. So he's got a fair mixture in there. But he started doing Indian head massage and relaxation and stuff like. So it kind of goes across the spectrum into the hypnotherapy and stuff like that. So it's interesting stuff, really. So it means he can basically talk you through it, relax you, and you can go off into a bit of a trance and experience, and just show people a lot of freedom. But he did a lot of work. He's a good chap. He did some work with some people that are vulnerable people, like homeless and people that have a kind of caught up in drug habits and all sorts of things. And it gave them a chance to relax, because sometimes we're on edge because they're coming off things or on things or craving things. And so that allowed that bit of freedom to find their sort of inner space. And some people don't. Some people never relax properly. They're always on this. Yeah. I was wondering about my gears. I'm thinking, what's happening to my gears there? So he's basically he's got some practical skills. I mean, I did some stuff around hypnotherapy. I spent a few years, to be honest, finishing off a course. I spent about 500, maybe over 500 quid in training. I did some qigong, but I already had a style of qigong I knew anyway, lots of breathing exercises. I did some acupressure. I did about 5. Yeah, I did solidly for about 5 years. I did sort of a kung fu style, it's like a hybrid inner kung fu, really. That's what it is. So it sort of covers animals, but the idea was to create your own style from it. It's like giving you different bases to work from. And I guess really at your sort of more senior level, you can, there's two ways to do it. You can teach people physical movements and read it for them, or you could, so you see the sort of, you see the movements that work best with their body type, and then you give that knowledge over to them, or by doing that you gain insight into them as well. Or the alternative to that, the alternative. Somebody let me out. It's very nice. Get out of the way for this guy. Yeah, or the alternative is that you open them up spiritually and so they can start to see movements, which is an interesting thing, because not all your sight comes from your third eye. That's kind of connecting to this realm and into the other realms. It's like a filter or something, because I didn't really notice my third eye was active when I was younger, but I was using this technique where I'd meditate, see movements, practice movements, and then he might spar off with a bit of the teacher there, which sort of, well, he'd use his guinea pig actually, put lots of arm locks on me, threw me to the floor and stuff like that. But you'd have a taste of the venom basically, you know what the moves are about. So yeah. So, but I try to pull myself back into the centre line. Yes, so going back to this chap, he can sort of tailor a lot of things, and I think you can create some videos where people can relax and maybe get some spiritual insight and travel to places. I quite like that sort of stuff as well, actually. Like, you know, you go to meditate, you start meditating and go off to Mars or somewhere. Check out what's there. So it'd be good. It'd be a good project. We'll see if I can get him off the ground, and if he sees the benefit of it. And it's not about the financial, but sometimes it prompts you into putting more effort into things. I mean, I might do that and set up some thing where someone can donate. Just that way, I can make some crazy projects. And of course, say if they work or not. That's the other thing. Because there's no point, you know, I could spend a lot of money investing into things. So I'll probably look at that. I just need to put some time to devote some time into some work. So I'm going to move into the second section. So I'll come back to you with basically when he sets his channel up, I just basically push it out there, you know, and people are into that. It should have a ripple effect. I mean, I don't think I've got a massive pull in the world, but I think my consciousness has a bigger influence as well. So it's kind of like spread out into ripples. I had an interesting experience yesterday. Now, I had it read to me, because it's pretty cool with Google does that, you can read a book to you. But I had Anastasia, and it was Anastasia's Singing Cedar, and it's not Anastasia the Disney thing, even though she probably could be an offshoot of that in some way. But it's a woman who lives in Siberia, and she's a bit of a naturalist in that she's very in tune with nature, and she's very Mother Earth, so that kind of thing. But one of the things she said about was seeds, and that you put a seed in your mouth, so your tongue warms it up, your saliva is sterile, and then you also have a kind of interaction with your DNA and the DNA of the plant as well. So the chemicals, I mean, if people worry about things like allergic reactions, you take something at a very low level at first, and then you expose yourself to it, and then by doing that, you can basically sort of tune yourself, sync with it, because you don't always have, you know, if you have quite a bad experience, your body may remember and always have a strong reaction to things. But with exposures, you can kind of relieve that. Over time, it just you have less side effects. You know, it's things like nuts. I think that's the theory of that, isn't it? That basically they say in pregnancy, if if you eat peanuts, you don't have, the child won't have the allergy based on its diet. So nuts must have a big effect on the human body, I guess. They cause such strong reactions. But anyway, so last night I decided to put because I wanted to grow a Hawaiian baby woodrose. Just trying to experiment. I want to grow some medicinal plants and then look at things, because it may be not the seeds, maybe the leaves have got certain qualities that haven't been explored. It could be the flowers. You know, people sometimes just focus on the end goal, getting blasted or having a quick effect on their psyche. And what you really want is to sort of understand the whole process. You know, I mean, I'm not saying you don't enjoy yourself. Just that there's different aspects, and also if I pushed it too far at once, you know, I could have a reaction to it. I could be some other issues that could arise from it. So anyway, I put this baby woodrose on my tongue, and I had it in my mouth for about a minute or two. So you just kind of feel the texture of it, the taste of it. Some of the chemicals come off it. Your saliva's trying to soften its shell as well, and yeah, and then basically I've already had the earth prepared, so I just basically made a slight indent and then kind of spat it into it. It's just quite easy to sort of go under and drop it into the hole. But then I fiddled around it to make sure it was pointed a bit up, because I want something. Because I bought all these seeds and I don't know if you might find that most of them are sterile, so just have to see. Just said fingers crossed, really. So I, based on Anastasia's what was in that book, I've added it to my own being, as we could say, and then later on I went off to sleep, and I think that's when some effects started taking place. Because if you don't know about Hawaiian baby woodrose, it has a lysergic acid or some qualities around that. I mean, if I mashed up a load of them, I'd be flying a kite. I was reading somebody who took about 10 of them, and he said he did remember being in his room a few times, on a few occasions in 10 hours, over 10 hours, but it was mainly in space. He travelled out into space. But was he looking for anything? That's the thing. He was just travelling. Because I think that's important. You're looking for an outcome. You're looking for an answer. You know, you're not just looking to feel sleepy and dreamy and travel off somewhere and euphoria. So I did notice that my brain was really active, and I could feel my now this is the key for consciousness. It's all in the heart, isn't it? So your living being is defined by your heart. Once you've got no heart, you don't really exist. But the only thing is about that, if your life was summed up by your heart, when people have yes, so when people have like heart transplants, are they the same person? You know, basically that defines your spirit, the beating in there, the algorithm to your being. Maybe it just adjusts, maybe it just tunes back into you, but for a while it exists as something else. Also the plasma, your blood plasma, I did read about, they tend to knock people out before giving blood transfusions. I don't know if that's true, because their personality can change. Is that right? Somewhere, because the host comes through in the plasma. So if you had a big enough just thinking is that you can have a certain amount of animals' blood injected into people as well. But yeah, if you had enough, could the person, take over permanently at some level? Be weird, isn't it? Fighting for your own body because something else wants to be in you. But I don't think it's like that at all. I know you can have under either 20% or 10% animal blood in your body. Anything higher than that, and you'd have a reaction to it, and die, have a heart attack. So yeah, definitely interesting. So I only had one on my tongue, and lay down, started to try to go to sleep, and then these images started coming to my mind, and there's some beautiful things. I saw Shiva. There was a blue man on a throne, long hair. He was actually blue. But he saw me, and I got up and he saw me. Actually, he wanted to know what it was, I guess. What was I doing in his conscious realm? But yeah, his whole throne was gold. It's quite amazing. He's probably quite tall as well. So we're probably not too far off in height, but I'd say he's probably about, maybe he's about 6'5". I'm only 6'1", so that's that was fascinating. And I saw some about alien beings, and one of them had like a wasp face, and said, "Are you scared of us?" And he said, "No, I'm not scared of you." I think that's initial fear, is that fear would create wars, and you come across something, you'll flip out and overreact. There were some other beings as well, really different ones. So one that was like, it would scare the crap out of some people, to be honest. But it was probably more in the gene, it was more elemental. There was another being that was interesting. It had plants growing out of its skin. So I don't know if it was like a symbiotic, but it had a stronger connection to nature. So it had something living off it. I'd imagine it probably lived flipping thousands of years, something like that. Yeah, it's things between plants and things between elements and a few other beings, and like seeing the blue beings as well. And I did some thinking about Anunnaki, because I somewhat come across something on the channel. I was aware that it was his two brothers, and I think they didn't get along so well. And one was the serpent and one was the eagle. And then I actually saw them, well, that they were, one of them was eagle, sort of eagle-faced. That's the Egyptian mythology, that some of these creatures were real. And the other one was like, had some reptilian qualities in it as well. But then it looked at the language, and where you've got psi, science, and also the PH version of it, or PSY, like psychic and stuff. All that comes under the field of knowledge to do with Enki, I think. El-Lil was the war one, but it's not war. It's actually authority. So that's why you got words like illegal, you've got eagle in it, regal. All these things have got a connection. But the other part of the word is cow, like practical. Birds go, oh, probably a poor attempt to sound like a bird, but that's kind of something to connect it to. It's been added into that, and like science and these things, physical. So you've got two mixtures and practical. So the end and the beginning and the end, but they're not basically. The war side, just the authority. And what does that mean? Just control, sovereignty. The author of the right to rule, sovereignty. Righty, see. So some chunks of the words that I need to explore, they may have come from influences from other beings that sort of set us up. There's meant to be sort of cataclysms in the past, so they try to restore our culture, and then they started to accelerate it as well. That might happen again, if we've got Planet X and everything goes planet up. I would say tits up, but I say planet up instead. But if something happens and this dimension, realm, whatever, we may need to have it so we can set up again. And what would we do this time? You know, that's kind of. And there was stuff about Jesus, and I was looking at the symbolism there. They had the fish, because he's Atlantean. That's the fish connection. And I think it was already a water world anyway. It was already partially submerged. So there's probably elements of the Atlanteans that will still exist underwater anyway. I showed you the shape, I think, of the heart shape of the Earth, and it means there's sections of it that are going to have huge expanses of water. And I was also thinking about the inner Earth map and how that might connect to a heart, that shape of it. So you might have a massive caverns in there. Now I can't guarantee what I perceive as being, you know, everything. But also I went into the Earth and I saw Gaia's womb, and I said, and there was an entity there. There's a lot of guardians around, and I said, I come with no harm, or something. As if I acted any you know, even surprised, this being might react. I mean, I know that that there's a dragon that's it's in the inner Earth as well. Whether it's a spiritual thing, but it's like you can control time and space. So the dragon can transfer itself to a shadow and then attack you. It'd be quite nasty to tear you apart. So it's but it's guarding nature. It's like something from the void, the dragon. God knows what it could do in a fight, but it's just sleeping down there. So I saw it's a silvery dragon. And then there was like Gaia's, like I say, it's like a human elemental mixture between the plant. So if you imagine poison ivy as a character or something, but it's more wood at the face as well. The skin, like, but she can morph anyway, morph between anything that's living because she's created it. It's all a part of her. So there's always a greater understanding in what we are and what we represent. But what I saw when I went down there was a being that was guarding it. It was the womb, and it basically looked like leaves of a cabbage over something. And inside there was energy and things getting created, like a heart. It was like a cabbage in a heart. It was such a strange thing, and the being was, I don't think it's horns on him. It was quite unusual. Just thinking back to what it looked like, but yeah, definitely an interesting experience. Like I say, I had trouble going to sleep because of brain. I could feel the blood was beating through my body more. I could feel the veins in my head. My brain was more active. I was having inner visions, outer visions. You know, kind of. No, well, it wasn't that extreme. Probably sounds like I'm really there, but I started visualising things, and externally, even with my eyes closed, I could sort of see things. There was some entities in the room. I basically probably summoned them up. That's sometimes your third eye type stuff, isn't it? You can see what's going on. Even as I talk now and think back to it, I kind of start to activate. But it was like a purple colouring in the eyes. When you look into a dark room, when your eyes adjusted it, you can sometimes see the lights, see things. But there's definitely things that are a bit more complicated. I've had it where I've laid in the dark and I start seeing flashes in my eyes, and I think it's actually some of the Wi-Fi type technology, possibly, or there's other beings. I sometimes get a pain, and it's like it's in a funny place. It's like where people get cell palsy or something, and it's like a nerve that goes through your cheek here, and I've had a sharp point like into my face, and I think there was an entity, and it was like like a way of hacking into your brain. It was just doing something, or it was trying to find out something, I don't know. Because it had no reason to feel this sort of weird pain in one spot. And then I recently had a dream where I saw like a grey creature, I don't know what it was. But its jaw come off. Come off there, and I said, yeah, but I was looking at it thinking, where's your mouth? And it took this part of its mouth off, and it had like I couldn't see its mouth, and then I stared at it. It was like just a little slit there, but it doesn't seem to be. But it was fairly human in the face I was looking at, so it might be a hybrid. And also, is this hybrid related to me? I don't know. So I thought I just had to think about these things because it wasn't so obvious that it wasn't a human. But then I just thought back to myself, why couldn't I see its mouth? And why did it have this like mask that it looked like a jaw, front jaw on it? So yeah. Anyway, I think that's it. Is there anything else that come into my mind? So I might play around with words as well. I need to have a good look at words and find some inner meaning. And I just need to carry on growing my plants, and then I'll share my findings and experiments with you guys and keep you posted. So, good one, and speak to you soon.